Welcome to the very, very, very first episode of U+IRL. And I have with me Erica Linhares.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So today we have a great topic for our first conversation as a podcast, and we are talking about adulting.
That's kind of scary. I'm going to be honest.
Yes, there are so many things that are involved when we are adulting. Mm-hmm. And actually, that reminds me of when I bought my appliances for my new apartment. I had to go shopping. We went shopping together.
Yeah, that was recent.
That was fairly recent, about a month ago, I think.
Yeah.
And we went together for a washer, a dryer, a fridge, and a stove.
This is all for his place, because for me, this is too real. Like, I don't know if I would be ready for that. But yeah, I went with you. We checked out some appliances.
And I just signed the papers. And I got them delivered within the week.
Within the week. And you got your internet as well.
Yeah. I found my own place and I settled everything by myself. Mm-hmm. We are on the verge of turning 22 in 2018. Yeah. We're both 21 at the moment.
Exactly.
And we're at very different steps in our lives.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's adulting.
Yeah, it's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's our own paths, and this is exciting. So
it is.
Today we're really talking about how to adult.
Yeah, or how we are experiencing not adulting. Yeah.
Essentially. So when it comes to adulting, it's something that I think you have to be very conscious about. Mm-hmm. It's something that you perform an action and then you realize that, wow, I'm actually growing up. Like, I'm maturing, I'm taking on responsibilities. Exactly. I know that at some point I had 2 flats with my car and I had to take the appointments to change. That's not true. My mom helped with the first appointment. So I'm not fully there yet.
It's like when you make that first phone call to make your own haircut appointment.
Yeah.
When your mom's like, yeah, you're going to make the phone call this time. And I'm just like, oh no.
Nervous.
Yeah.
And you don't want to make a mistake in the phone number.
Yeah.
Imagine you call a stranger.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
Hi, I'm calling for a haircut. Who are you?
We deliver pizza. I don't know what you're looking
for. Yeah, it's like a huge step.
That's probably one of the first ones that people experience. Because at a younger age, your parents are like, oh, I'm not dealing with your problems anymore. Like, make your own dentist appointment, haircut appointment, So I think that's maybe one of the first experiences that people have in terms of adulting. Like, you're not going to go straight into like, oh, I have a whole new car. I have my own place to live. Which are things that things that you're going through, So it's interesting to see the change and or maybe not see the change, because I had an experience recently where I ran into this girl on the bus and we just kind of hit it off randomly, but I didn't know this girl. We just because I was going to catch my bus and the bus driver wasn't on the bus yet, and I was going to knock on the bus door like an idiot. And she stops me and she's like, hey, like, the bus driver's in the bathroom. They're going to come back shortly. So she was just polite and really sweet. So we got into the bus together and she said like, oh, you could sit next to me, We did, and we spoke. And I wasn't sure at first what age she was, because she was kind of mature and she didn't seem too young. So I asked, I was like, how old are you? And she said that she was 17.
Wow.
Yeah. And at first I'm like, okay, 17. She said she went to college, the same college that we went to. And I was like, oh, this is really awesome,
Right.
So I wanted
Remember when we were 17?
Exactly.
Just getting into college?
Yeah. And all the experiences that she was telling me about, it brought me back to those days of not knowing what I'm going to do in my future and things like that. Like, we still have those things now. We're just trying to figure it out now.
Yeah.
But I was telling her, she was so curious as to the things that I do in my life. Oh, you have you work in an office, that's so cool. You go to an amazing university, she was so excited for me that it made me excited for myself. Because as you're living it, you don't really realize how much you are adulting.
Yes.
Do you remember when we were young and we'd always look at the older kids and be like, wow, I want to do that one day.
First years, as freshmen, we would walk in and see everybody about to graduate.
Yeah, and
be like, oh my God, they have everything settled. They have their planned. Their future is planned out, and oh my God, can't wait to be at that point.
Exactly. And now we've surpassed that point, but we haven't really looked back and been like, wow, look at where we've come from.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting seeing the perspective of a 17-year-old looking up at you with glowed up eyes and excited. Mm-hmm. And then realizing I am doing these things I was once really excited about.
Yeah, it reminds me at some point I was walking in an alley, I think to get some milk.
Sounds a little sketchy.
I know, very sketchy. But I happened to cross And I mean, that must have been like 2 years ago. So I was 19 at the time, but I happened to cross 3 or 4 teenagers, like probably around the age of 16, 17.
Yeah.
And they called me sir.
They called you sir.
They called me sir.
I got that too. When I was working in a retail job, there was these kids maybe younger, like around 14,
Yeah.
13, 14. And they called me madame, which over here, the term madame is like you refer to someone as like being a woman, more like older, elderly.
Yep.
So that was funny. I was like, whoa, I'm not a madame.
No, it's like, not yet. Calm down.
Yeah, not
there
yet.
There are years to come
yet.
before that happens. And that's, I think the moment where you realize that you're not there yet, it means that you're also progressing.
Yeah.
Because you can see how much you've done and still how much you have to do before you get to that point of being an adult. And I mean, some people are never adults. Like some people have never progressed 100%, and we meet people every day who are in their 30s and their 40s. They're still not adults fully because no matter what happens, we always depend on other people.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's actually something that I had to learn how to accept, because I was going through times of hardship and being a very independent person, I would always want to rely on myself more than anybody else and kind of refuse any help that I was offered. Mm-hmm. And at some point I had to learn how to say, you know what, it's fine if you accept help. Yeah. Nobody's completely independent.
Yeah, no, it's true.
And it's a part of life. You get to to take on responsibilities, which is fun, because I mean at some point it's like, look what I can do, look what I can achieve.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But at some point, nothing that you achieve in life is because you've done it by yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
Whether you're at work, whether it's family wise, whether it's I mean, you just have to look at, tonight is the Oscars, as a matter of fact. We're currently recording this on Sunday.
Yeah.
And they thank their families and their whole teams because they can't take on everything by themselves.
For different reasons, yeah, like moral support, like actual physical support. There's a lot of different ways that people need to depend on others, and they might not realize it. They might think that they're the most independent person ever, but you still need that guidance sometimes, or just that support in general.
Right.
And I think people don't really realize that. Yeah.
And that might actually be the true meaning of adulting.
Yeah.
Like it's because I know that in the teenage years you're really trying to be independent. You're really trying to set the line between what you want to do by yourself and what you want others to do for you. And by growing up and accepting the help that you're getting from other people,
it's a step, for sure.
That is becoming an adult. That is recognizing where you're at in life, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and just accepting that this is life and this is a person I'm becoming.
Yeah, it's a very interesting feeling. That's been happening to me in the past maybe year or so. I've really been finding out who I am as an individual, and I know a lot of younger generations hear that from the older generation, and they think like, oh, like that's never gonna happen, I'm never gonna know who I am. And I'm still learning who I am every single day, but just that feeling of like taking time to think about the things that I've gone through and how I've overcome them and how I've grown. Yeah, it's really it puts into perspective of like, wow, like I am adulting, like I am forming into my own person, It's a very great feeling to have. So if you're younger and you're listening, like, don't feel like it needs to be rushed. It comes naturally at whatever time it needs to.
It is, but it's also very daunting. I mean, at a certain point, you're asking yourself a lot of questions. You're questioning your every move. You're trying to figure out what is the best path, what is the best decision, and truth be told, there is never a perfect solution.
Exactly.
There's never the right way. It's all. I think it's always about making it your way.
Exactly.
And like developing a plan that is going to suit you, because that's exactly what adulting is.
That's what it
simply is. Yeah. It's about finding your own path. It's not just about being that person that is perfect and has everything under control, because everybody knows nothing goes the way that we plan.
According to plan, yeah.
Like never,
no.
Whether it's career, family, like nothing.
And that's how the best things come about. It's when things don't go according to plan that it's like, wow, I'm experiencing these things I didn't think I would, and look at all the things I'm learning because of it, know? A lot of people, like what you were saying before, like a lot of people have this image of what the perfect person is and what they should be doing. Maybe because you see your friends doing these things or whatever, but whatever happens in your life and whatever unexpected things come up, whatever it is, if it's a kid, if it's marriage, if it's, you know, like, yeah, finding the love of your life or losing someone close to you, it's like, those are things that form you into the person that you are. And it's a very beautiful thing if you know, realize what you've gotten out of it, you know?
Right. And it can be as simple as, I work in an office where the parking space is a parking space that you rent. So you have to pay monthly for it.
Yeah.
And I remember signing for the first time the lease and getting a card and like leaving work to go to my car to leave the parking space that belongs to the building, but I'm like 21.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, I'm doing something that's very, like, my mom does that.
Yeah.
Like, why? I'm at the point where I'm doing what my mom is doing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's so weird compared to what I used to do, which was public transportation.
Yeah.
I would take the metro all the way to my workplace, and then I'd just walk. And
Right.
That's very, like, teenager, kind of in the city.
Exactly.
Trying to be autonomous, not necessarily achieving it 100% because you always depend on, but that's the thing, you always depend on other people.
Right.
So you depend on the building to get the parking space, you depend on the bus driver to drive you around.
Yeah.
But it's like being able to accept that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the only thing that you need.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really becoming an adult.
And going back to like wherever you are in your stage of adulting, like we, like Zach and I are different. Just us two, putting in perspective. He works full time right now. I do part-time work in an office. I used to be in retail, so jumping from retail to an office job is already a big step.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, but I still go to university. And I still work part-time, whereas Zach, you work full-time now.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
37 hours and a half.
Yeah, exactly. That's very, like, that's already scary for me to hear, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's what you're doing full-time. It becomes your life.
Yeah.
If you spend 12, 14 hours a week in a day, 8 of them are reserved for work.
Yeah.
And that is your life. It consumes you. It becomes part of you. And it's another load of responsibilities that you're willing to accept at that point.
Yeah.
And it also opens up the door to so many other opportunities.
Right, exactly.
By being able to work full time, you get to put money aside for plans and objectives.
Yeah.
You build a schedule that you can rely on as well. Like knowing that I work in an office job, it's a 9 to 5 on a weekly basis. I know that my weekends are free.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm able to take the time that I want and to organize it according to my personal objectives.
Yeah. I remember when I was working in retail, I would hardly have my weekends off, but you would only have like a 1 to 2 week notice of what your weeks would look like, you know? And it's very scary because you don't know what to make of your time. So while you're being a teenager, or just even if you're in your young 20s and you're still working a retail job, there's nothing wrong with that. But taking that step changes a lot when you're working a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Even if you're doing something more creative and it's not a 9 to 5, it's something else, you usually have a set schedule, and that right there is a huge jump in adulting. Yeah, for sure.
And now I think about moving, and I've been out of my parents' place for about 5 years now, going on to 6. And I remember when I was young, actually there's a running gag in my family where I used to pack my bags when I was mad and pretend that I would leave. So I would walk out the house and go all the way to the corner of the street with a bag full of clothing that I would select by myself. Yeah. And then obviously my parents found it funny because obviously I wouldn't leave at the age of 5. I used to do that at the age of 5, 6.
I did it once as well. I did that once. Yeah.
And now that I actually do it in the sense where when I first moved out, I moved into a student residence, and I was the lease was under my name, and the checks that I was signing were under my name, and I was signing them.
Yeah, it was no longer your parents. Yeah,
exactly. It was a responsibility. It was a plan. It was an objective. I was planning to move into that student residence to go study in Montreal. Yeah. And that is part of a plan, and it's when you start planning that you become an adult. Because if I think about being a kid, having no plans whatsoever, and just wanting to go outside to play with your friends, or I remember at the time playing in the woods, I would forget about everything else.
Yeah.
I would forget.
It was very easy to forget about everything else because there weren't that many worries. And, you know, every day I feel like people, even adults, like actual full-grown adults, we're so busy with the hustle of every single day and worrying about the next day because we have to make ends meet, right?
Exactly.
That we kind of forget how to get lost in the moment and enjoy the moment. Yeah. I look at people around me and I see everybody looking like they're rushing to get to the next place.
Yes.
And that's adulting right there.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's actually something that I'm doing without even, like, you're mentioning it now, but I've never associated the fact that I'm becoming an adult with trying to rush things. Like, at the time, I would enjoy, during school, I would enjoy the classes. I would enjoy the people I'm with. Yeah. But now that I'm at my job and I know that I have creative objectives and I want to move up the ladder and go on to this amazing path of amazing projects. I'm realizing that I'm rushing things and I want to do more and more and more. Yeah. And that's exactly what being an adult is. Yeah. Because as a kid, it would be about the moment.
Yeah, just living in the moment. Else. Yeah, not worrying about anything else.
Not worrying about the world, not worrying about your family. Yeah. About supper time. I mean, it came to the point where I would forget about supper.
Yeah,
right?
I've had that.
But now it's like, no, I've got to make sure that this is done by this day, that this bill is paid by this day, that I got to get home. Now I have to shop for groceries.
It's a whole new world, I know.
It is, yeah. And it's fun.
Yeah, and even though, like, one of the major differences between Zach and I is that I still live at home. Yeah, I still live at home. I don't own my own car. Like, I still take public transport because my job and school is in the city. So there wasn't really much of a point for me to get a car and all that, but I've taken on more responsibilities at home. Like, I do the groceries as well for my family. Yeah. And just being able to do those things for my family and help them out whenever they need, that feels really good, you know? Yeah. As a kid, I wouldn't even think about those things, you know? Right. Like, but now my parents can come to me and, like, if they need help, they could just ask and they know I'll be okay with it, you know? Like, I'll help them out whenever I can. And another thing that you mentioned was talking about, like, the world around you. When you were young, like, you didn't really care too much about the world around you, what's going on. Yeah. And it made me think, when I was younger, I would never want to watch the news.
See, then you were the complete opposite, because I used to watch it as a young kid.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. When I was a young kid, I despised the news because I only remembered the bad things that they would say on the news, because it's mostly that. Mm-hmm. So at a young age, I remember telling my parents, like, I don't want to watch this, you know, I want to watch my cartoons and happy-go-lucky things, you know? Yeah. And now I'm looking at my iPhone, I'm swiping to the news, and I'm checking what has Donald Trump done next, or even Justin Trudeau, you know? Like, I'm constantly curious as to what's going on in the world because I know it affects us more now than I did when I was younger. Yeah. Like, just being more aware of those things that we didn't really care so much of as kids, it's another form of adulting that we might not be conscious about.
Yeah, it is. And you're bringing up a very good point about curiosity, because I think that's one of the other lines that is drawn by adulthood. As a child, you're curious about the environment, you're curious about the everyday experience that you have, whereas when you grow up, you become curious about what is outside what you see. Yeah. What is happening on the other end of the world? What is happening with your distant relatives that you don't see very often? Yeah. You become curious, but not about the same things.
It's different. Yeah, it's definitely different.
Like, I've become curious about how my management at work handles situations. Oh, yeah. I've become curious about how certain aspects of life works or work. And not just like, oh, I'm curious about what is the next thing on the TV show, or what is I don't know, what next activity I will do with a friend or with family.
Like, what movie am I gonna go watch with my friends?
Exactly. You know? It becomes much more than that. Yeah. And there's a degree of importance that comes into play where you worry about things that are also out of your control. You start to observe and to learn about things that you can't control, but you want to have control. Yeah. But it's not possible.
It's not possible, I know.
Like the news, like you were saying. I wish I could have control over the bad news and change it.
Yeah.
I wish I could do something about it, which, I mean, in little actions you can.
Yeah, and movements and things like that. Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure. Yeah.
But you realize that you become, one of my greatest analogies that I love is you realize you become that grain of sand amongst the beach. Mm-hmm. That you're not just a grain of sand, like you're not the only grain.
Yeah, there's a bunch of us.
There's a bunch of us.
And together,
we build up something.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back, it goes full circle to what I was saying, that we depend on other people as well.
Yes, yeah.
So
you become more aware of that
exactly.
the older you get.
And just this moment that we're living of realizing how it comes full circle, that is adulting.
Yeah, it's special. Yeah, exactly.
It's taking the time to think about something and realizing it.
Yeah.
Not being in the moment, but being able to step back and realize, wow, this is what's happening.
Yeah, and what can I do about it? Or, you know, like, yeah.
Exactly.
It's crazy because, like, what you're saying about managing things, like you're talking about how you're now curious about how management deals with stuff in your workplace.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you know exactly what you want to do for the rest of your life. Like it'll come to you, and maybe it'll come and go, and things will change, you know. But it's interesting because for me, I was one of those people that always said, I don't know what I'm going to do in my future. Like I was always very confused, and that made me insecure. I'm not going to lie. I'm sure a lot of people go through it, but when you're going through it, you only feel in your own bubble, and you feel like, why can't I figure out what I want to do? And everyone around me seems like they can, you know? So for me, if people are curious, like for me, I took it from my experience working in retail, and I was looking at the managers I had, and for me, seeing how managers treated workers in the workplace so poorly. I mean, I don't want to put blame on these people, but they might have been going through their own thing, you know, but it made me want to become a manager one day and treat people with respect and, you know, as if they're not robots. So for me, it came in a very interesting way because now I'm studying management and that's my major, right?
Yes, yeah.
And it came to me because I got my college degree in accounting, and I said, okay, like, I don't know if I want to do accounting the rest of my life. I'm more of a people person than, you know, like I like my numbers too, but you know, you can only do that for so long before you just want to, you know, end it all. Exactly. Right? So for me, when I was thinking about what I'm going to do in university, I had to put things into perspective and realize, look, now in university, I'm taking on this role because I'm paying for my own studies in university. Yeah. And that for me was a big thing. Like, am I going to put my own money into something that I don't really want to do, like becoming a CPA, which is like a chartered professional accountant? I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that, even if the security's there, because at that time in my life, I was experiencing this terrible management that I just couldn't stand anymore. And I felt that in the back of my head, just, you know, eating at me. And I was like, it's the world telling me something. Like, I have to do something about this. Yeah. So I remember it didn't take long for me to look through the courses and the different majors that our university provided. And I said, you know what? Management just seems right for me. And I'm not saying that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm one of those people now that knows exactly what they're going to do with their life. Like, that's not what it is. But at least you made a decision for yourself. Exactly. And that was like a really great feeling because, especially a decision that wasn't the safe decision. Like, it's still scary to me that I don't know exactly what I'm going to do after a year, because after a year I graduate university. Yeah. So that's obviously going to be a fear in the back of my mind, but just being able to look back and think like, well, you know what? I made that decision for a reason. Right. That right there feels, you know, amazing in itself. And see, that brings up another point. There is the factor of risk in life. Yeah. Where as we're becoming adults, we realize what the risks involved are. Mm-hmm. And we are willing to take the risks when we want something that's our own. Yeah. At this age especially, because we feel like we can still take on risks at this age, especially if we don't have these crazy responsibilities like taking care of a kid. And even if you do, you still feel like, you know what, it's my time right now that I can take risks, so let me do it. Mm-hmm. I do have a friend of mine who's currently studying fashion. She just started school. And she's our age. She's 21. And she had a child about a year and a half, a year ago, I guess. Yeah. Or maybe even 2, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
And she went through different programs and she never had found exactly what she wanted, but I know that she had been talking to me about fashion, like, on a regular basis.
And you could tell that was something she cared about.
I could tell that was a passion of hers, and I felt it. And now she is studying fashion, and she went for it, even though she has had a child and she has responsibilities. Yeah. Exactly. You decide to go forward with something that will satisfy your needs, your expectations, your demands on yourself as well. Because, I mean, we can be very demanding, and that's another aspect of being an adult.
Yeah.
We're more and more demanding of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's about taking that risk, and actually that brings me to one of my favorite sayings that completely represents me, and I say it all the time. I'm either very, very, very bold or very, very, very stupid. Like, it's always one or the other.
Yeah,
right? I make decisions which I don't know if the results are going to be good, but I guess either I thought about it or I did not. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know which one is better, because when you don't think about it, it means you really, really want it.
Yeah, it's true.
When you think about it, you're being strategic. Yeah,
there's a difference there. Yeah, there's living in the moment and being strategic and having, like, sort of an expectation of what's going to happen, because you've done the planning and everything like that,
exactly,
behind it. Yeah.
So it's one of the things I keep saying to people. Like, it's one of the things that really represents me, because I'm either completely brave or just I don't put any thought into what I do, and it just comes out. It just happens.
And I feel like it's a perfect explanation of growth, because as children, we don't strategize at that age. We do things in the moment. We do stupid decisions, quote unquote. But as we're aging, we're trying now to, like, be a bit more strategic and trying to plan, because we have more things to, like, think about, like finances and things like that. And then when you're a full grown adult, you're more strategic and planning, because you have a lot more things on the line. So for us, it's really a mixture of those decisions, and I think that's funny. Like, it's such a good point.
We're currently in the middle. We're currently in that process of changing. I don't think that process ever really ends, to be honest.
You're right. There's always growth.
We're currently in the center of that transformation that we're currently living. As opposed to being on one end or in either. And it's amazing to see. Now, the other thing that I kind of thought about when you were talking about studying accounting was how you control very well your budgets.
Oh.
So you have Excel sheets, Erica. Tell me about this.
I do, yeah. So I'm one of those people. We are going off of planning as well. And it has to do with that. I'm just naturally the type of person that likes to plan out her to-do list, her finances, things like that. I love to do. So I know a lot of people have trouble with it, and I like to be there for people and maybe, like, help them out. But yeah, I have a Excel sheet with my budget. It's crazy
because you really combine your personal interests with your accounting skills, and everything is detailed. Like, I'm in awe when I see that kind of document on your computer.
Yeah, it's funny though, because people think, oh, look, she's got it all planned out. But of course, I'm going back and forth editing things. Like, okay, like, I budgeted I would spend like $150 on lunches and snacks, but look, I'm spending $180. Like, where can I? It's constant editing and going back and figuring things out, because you think everything's gonna, work its way exactly how you plan it, but it's very often that it doesn't. But the reason why I do it is because for me, it's better to have it written down and see it and be aware. I think that's the most important thing. So when people tell me, like, how do you do it or why do you do it, it's more of like just being self-aware of the decisions that you're making, more so than controlling them.
Right.
That's what it is, Yeah. And I think it goes back to us being able to afford it. Like, we're able to right now take these chances, and, like, if things don't work out exactly as planned, okay, well, what am I going to do with the experience that came out of it, So that's why I do it. I guess from my studies of accounting, or just my general being, like, I'm able to do those things, and I love to do those things, but I know it doesn't come naturally to everybody, and that's normal.
Yeah, and here I am on the complete other end with no plan whatsoever when it comes to budgeting. Which is not necessarily, actually, it's not a good thing at all, if I can say, because it does contain a good amount of risks. but at the same time, it's one of those concerns that I don't have. It's one of those things that, and I guess that's a part of it where, a part of adulting where I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
When it comes to expenses, like I have a general idea of what my budgets are, what I can afford, cannot afford. But I often wait until the last minute until like either I'm running out of money or like
I'm good for this month or it's too late. Yeah, things like that.
To change my habits and my actions. So whereas yes, I'm managing a salary with a car, with paying my rent, paying for my finance appliances, utilities, name it.
Yeah.
Everything, food, whatever you want to list. I go approximately. I don't have that patience. I don't have that desire to feel concerned by my budget.
Yeah.
And I just know that whatever happens, I'll find a way to make it happen.
To make it work in the end. Yeah, it's funny because that's another thing we're very different on. That's like the one part of, I guess, adulting that like I really do like and I have a desire for and that, you know, I dedicate time to is those things. But do I cook meals at home? No, my mom does that. She's Italian. She'll cook. Do I, like the most I do at home is I do my chores, like my laundry and things like that, keeping the house clean sometimes. But, you know, like I don't have a car, you do. I don't have my own place, you do. You know, like all these different things that we have, it's different forms that adulting takes on, you know? And it's very interesting because had we had the same experiences, it would maybe make this a little hard for viewers to connect to because, you know, we're giving them one side and we're still giving, like, we're giving two sides out of the millions of sides that adulting can take. Yeah.
Nobody is going to live the same experience.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You're all going to live something in a different order with different people, different personalities, different objectives, different environments. Work, no work, studies, no studies, large ambitions for career, small ambitions. Not that there's anything wrong with it anyways.
Yeah.
It's just that we all live different lives.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's crazy how different we can be, even though we're still like the same generation. We still live under the same pressure nowadays to perform, to have those objectives that we should achieve.
There's a lot of pressures. We
still have our own stories and our own paths.
Yeah.
And you were to go back for a second on the budgeting and the expenses that we make. One of the things, and probably one of my favorite memories with you, Erica, is going to buy that Xbox.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So essentially, I was at a time in my life where I had gone through a very, very important episode, we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And I really realized that I had to take care of myself and really put myself forward. And I wanted to do things that would please me.
Yeah.
I wanted to do things that would change my mind, that would make me happy. I mean, that event really brought on another level of adulthood onto my life.
At an early age,
At a very early age, at the age of 18. But what I did with Erica was I decided, I think it was like the first or second week of January when we had met up.
Yes, yeah.
We went shopping together and I went to buy an Xbox One.
Just like that.
I just felt like it. We were shopping together. I don't think it was
so
not
funny.
even planned. It was
absolutely not planned. We met up at a mall and I think I wanted to go into EB Games because, you know, I wanted to see what was out, you know? And we went in and I saw this glow in Zach's eyes and he had an idea and I was like, oh no, what's this idea gonna be? So I turn around and I'm like, what? Because he said something like, I have an idea.
Yep.
And I said, what? Like, what do you want to do? He's like, I'm going to buy an Xbox One. I'm like, no, you're not, because you're going to get a PS4.
Oh, yeah, true. Okay, wait. Yeah, no, I'll never buy a PlayStation. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's another thing we're different about. PlayStation, Xbox. But I remember him saying that, and I was like, well, no, you're not. He said, yeah, I am. You know, like, I want to do this for myself. we're having a great night. Why don't we go back, play some video games, and have some pizza? Yeah. And it's funny because since that day, that's kind of become a tradition for us.
It has.
Yeah. If I come over, we're playing video games and having pizza.
Yeah.
That's our lives.
That's pretty much, that's our friendship.
Yeah.
It's based around pizza and video games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our friendship in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm struggling with that word right now. In a nutshell. But so I decided to buy an Xbox because in the moment and the thing is I couldn't even afford it. To go back to finances.
Yeah, that's why I was telling him, like, don't do it.
It was on student loans, and I remember telling my mom, and if you're listening to this, Mom, I apologize.
I apologize as well. I was there.
Well, you didn't know my mom at the time.
Yeah,
so,
true.
I mean, you couldn't have told her. Anyway, so I told my mom and my brother that I kind of won the Xbox in a draw.
No, you didn't.
Yes.
I'm just finding this out.
Oh yeah, I never told you.
You have never told me this.
So yeah, I told my mom and my brother that I kind of won the Xbox in a draw that EB Games was having.
No
and
way.
that I just put in my name and my number and I got called out. So
there's no way I'm just finding this out now.
I know that my mom would have been disapproving if she had known that I had gotten an Xbox One on student loans. Mm-hmm. But wait, that was in what year? That was 2014, or I think we had just arrived in 2015.
Maybe we just arrived in 2015 or 2016. It was
2015 because 2015. The event had happened in 2014.
Because it was 2015, yeah.
So yeah, the beginning of the year.
About 3 years ago.
And we are currently in March of 2018, and I still have that same Xbox.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
And it was a risk at the time, but it became a key to so many things. Mm-hmm. Like, I know it's going to sound really, really ridiculous, but I have this voice. Well, everybody knows who Cortana is on the Xbox.
You're right.
So we have that voice assistant that we can use. And I remember every time having a new guest over at my place, I would show them the voice system on my Xbox and be able to activate the Xbox just with words.
Yeah.
It became a thing. But just to show the point that it just built memories. Mm-hmm. It was one of the things.
Taking risks, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I took a risk, knowing that it could turn out greatly or not. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, to this day, it built amazing memories.
Right. Yeah.
It's all stupid moments. Like, just for instance, your profile on my Xbox. And
right.
now my camera recognizes your face.
Yeah, when I walk into the living room, it says, "Hi, Erica," like, "Welcome." And I'm like, "Oh yeah," I always forget. I'm like, "Oh yeah, it recognizes me."
Exactly. But it's
little
that
things
kind
like
of
that.
fun moment, right?
Yeah,
The joy in the second that you're living it. Mm-hmm. So, being a child, and I guess that to go back to that adulting aspect of it, it's that transition of, you know what, I made a decision for myself. I took a risk.
Yeah.
But I was aware of the risk.
Yeah.
And it's in that moment that I realized I'm able to take on responsibilities and to take on the recognizing that this is my fault or my responsibility if I have any issues with it, or this will be my gain and my good action because I decided to do it, and maybe things are going to turn out great.
But it was all because you decided you wanted to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And exactly. Just being self-aware, being determined, making your own decisions and taking on responsibility. Those are like key aspects for sure.
Yeah.
And you did all that, and that's just a little anecdote, you know. There's so many things that we do on a daily basis that encompasses that, but just something as small as that led to so many, you know, memories and things and like that we can always look back on. And if you think about more I guess serious things, because recently I went through something, and it lasted like a good part of my adulting, you know, and coming out of that experience, like, I thought it was going to be hard and whatever, but you kind of learn more about yourself. So even if the outcome is good, like an Xbox, or bad, going through something difficult, you always have something to take out of it and to apply into your future experiences and things you come across, you know? Yeah. And I think that's very important, because maybe we weren't so self-aware when we were younger, but now I'm more self-aware of these little things that happen in my life, and just the way I treat people and how that can come back to you in a positive way if you treat others positively. Like it's really about being self-aware, I think, and making the most of that, and being cautious and being smart about it as much as you can, you know. And yeah, it's a very beautiful thing.
It is. Just to touch upon what you said about being nice to other people and what goes around comes around.
Right.
It's one thing that I realized with time. I mean, I remember being very, very stubborn, very demanding of other people, working in school projects or working in day-to-day things just with my friends. Very, very stubborn. Like, I used to have an incredible ability to like maintain my own ideals and concepts in place and not have anybody disturb them.
I was impatient.
Oh, but see, we all work on things like that. And so with time, I realized the impact that I had on other people.
Yeah.
And how I could be better, and how being better makes you better.
Makes you a better person, yeah.
Not only a better person, but also the environment around you.
Yeah, it
makes you in a better place.
Do you ever have these days where sometimes you're looking around and you feel a sense that people are looking at you, or like just like paying attention to, and you're like, why am I gaining attention right now? Is it something that I'm wearing? And you start to question, like, what is it? Do I just look really good today?
Yeah.
But I think it has a lot to do with the aura that you put around yourself.
Yeah.
If you're in a great mood, people are going to see that and be attracted to that, you know? Yeah. It might not necessarily be the shirt that you're wearing, but maybe the shirt that you're wearing makes you happy, and you have this natural aura about you. And it goes off the principle that if you handle other people and scenarios negatively, it's hard to overcome sometimes, to like change your habits. Like me being impatient, I had to, you know, it took a lot to be more patient. But once you do grow on that and you try your best, you see results that are surprising sometimes. I'll put it that way, you know. So if you feel like there's something to you that's like, oh, you know, even this annoys me that I do this, maybe think about how it's treating other people and the environment around you, and maybe see what you can do to just, you know, change that. Yeah. So
it's crazy how every small, and that's, I guess, to really sum up everything, it's crazy to see how every small interaction, how every small action, how every small thought affects you. It just has an impact, whether it's big, small, medium, whatever size. It's gonna affect you. And it's, I guess, adulting is about becoming aware of that. Not the action itself, not the thought, or
not what you're going through exactly, not the environment exactly,
but of it happening and of it changing you and affecting you, and realizing that this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm becoming, but I'm becoming this because I'm going through this.
And without it, you probably wouldn't, you know?
Exactly. And I think that kind of is a beautiful definition of adulting. And like we said before, everybody has a different path to adulting. Everybody has different steps, different parkours to kind of get to the point that they are today. Nobody ever becomes a full adult, ever. I don't think
There's always growth. Always,
exactly. We always have that side of us where we need help, we need assistance, but it's also about recognizing that we need assistance and being okay with the fact that we're getting assistance from other people. And everybody has their own unique, beautiful way of becoming an adult. And that is life. And I think that kind of wraps up beautifully our segment on adulting. So thank you very much, Erica, for being with us.
Thank you so much, Zach.
Today. And maybe we'll see each other for another beautiful, beautiful conversation about philosophy of life.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure.